So that's
I suppose that there is still room for expansion.
That's my point precisely, Madam Chair. That's why we need NEDA. Because we cannot say that the Bulacan Economic Zone will benefit the whole country without the study, because Clark has about 35,000 hectares owned by government. So between a private corporation, the airport city, and between Clark, which has an international airport, we should protect Clark.
Kung titignan natin yung Bulacan area na paglalagyan nitong eco zone na ito, marami doon mga fish ponds. Ngayon, syempre kailangan din naman natin ng fish pond, pero ang sinasabi natin din dito, yung value of the development, well, parang from zero yan eh. From zero, o sabihin na natin from 5 to astronomically more, because high value industries yung magre-relocate doon. So ito na lang for me, common sense. And of course, we need the guidance of NEDA in most cases, but at some point, we also have to exercise the discretionary our discretion as congressional members of the legislature to think of what we feel is better being proactive for our countrymen. So for me, no-brainer, wala dun ngayon. Malalagyan mo ng something, mas may value kaysa sa wala.
So, while I will agree with you na common sense na hindi naman pwedeng we just rely on the agencies, pero common sense din naman, hindi naman tayo pwedeng manghula na kung sa Cavite natin to lalagay or sa Bataan or sa Pangasinan, it will be good because nga, may cost and may benefit eh. So, in other words, sorry for this word, nanguhula lang ba tayo dito?
I know that there are certain things that are being clarified, but is there any amendment in the statement of our gentleman from Taguig?
Depende po sa sagot. Kasi kung ang sagot ng huhula lang tayo dito, we should not be talking about amendments. We should be talking about not passing the bill per se. Because it's too big a project and a bill to rush and then hindi tayo sure kung ano mangyayari. First, my question kasi nanguhula lang ba tayo? The answer apparently is yes.
Mr. President, wait. First of all, hindi tayo nanghuhula dito. Nagkaroon tayo ng ilang committee hearing and we invited experts. I wish also the gentleman from Taguig had attended.
So whoever is in the right. So it's like, example ko, Madam Chair, no? Sino ba masusunod dito? Si Senator Grace o si Senator Alan? It's not a matter kung sino masusunod sa atin. It's a matter kung sinong tama at mali. Tama po ba? Just to clarify yung stand ng NEDA, tama po ba there are 3 projects? The airport city, and then the eco zone?
Yes, we have the, as you mentioned, the airport, the economic zone, which is the actual area, and then the...
So airport city,
Airport
and
city.
then the eco zone.
Yes, the eco zone. Actually, within the eco zone, meron pang ibang classification, yung free port, di ba?
Yes.
These are the different incentives that will be...
So just to clarify, to give a better picture of what we're talking about, yung sinasabing 2,500 hectares, yun yung airport city or yun yung airport alone?
Airport city lang yon because the actual economic zone is much bigger.
So how big is the airport compared to the airport city?
Actually, you mean the economic zone?
No,
It's
the,
about
no, the
55,000.
franchise kasi talks about airport vis-a-vis airport city, and then the eco zone in the areas specified that the airport city and airport are also in it. So I assume the airport is in the airport city, and then the airport city is in the eco zone. But can we clarify how big are these? So how big is the airport vis-a-vis the airport city?
Actually, the airport and the airport city, that's 2,500.
Okay. So
2,500
hectares. Okay.
Sabihin ko square meters, parang kulang
Yeah.
ata.
So loosely we can say that the airport and airport city is
Are the same.
The same. Kasi compared, for example, to NAIA, we're just talking about the runway, the terminal, and
Correct.
some support facilities. Pero yung ibang private na katabi, hindi nakasama sa airport yon, di ba? But etong 2,500 airport city. Okay. So in order to make the what is the concept of the eco zone? Is it to to help the airport, or the airport will help the ecozone? Help me understand why are we proposing an ecozone?
Mr. President, actually, it will be a mutual advantage to both. As we have used as an example earlier, the Shannon Freeport Zone in Ireland was the one to, and the airport was the one that spurred economic growth. Kasi nandyan na yung ease of transport, delivering goods, transporting people, beside the ecozone, which accepted manufacturing companies and other service-oriented companies within that area. So, tutulong talaga yung airport kasi mas madali yung transportation. Kunyari, meron silang mga semiconductors na gustong i-export kagad, hindi na kailangan ng mga trucking na malalaki para i-export o dalhin sa airport. At the same time, yung mga dumarating rin from the airport will be able to go to their place of work much easier. In fact, they don't really have to move around out of that ecozone if they didn't need to.
Yeah, I will agree with you that it will be mutually beneficial, but can we clarify? So the airport and airport city is private.
Yes, Mr. President, that's why that's why they had to go through the process of obtaining a franchise.
But the ecozone, what kind of animal is it? Is it it's public compared to private, right?
Yes, because it's under the authority of we don't call them the Pacsesfa anymore, but we call them now the BUZZ-A.
Okay.
BEZA.
So, but what's the nature? Is it a local government? Is it a GOCC? Is it a chartered corporation? Ano ang nature ng ecozone?
It will be like a GOCC, Mr. President.
Okay, and if it's mutually beneficial, meaning yung private makikinabang din dito sa government.
Siyempre, makikinabang because
Yes.
with the seed capital, there'll be infrastructure and there are also tax incentives. So, yes.
But Clark, would you have information kung punong-puno na ng... Is there any more room for locators in Clark?
You know what, Mr. President, I haven't really been to Clark recently, but I know that one of their proposals is even to have housing within Clark.
Yes. So
I suppose that there is still room for expansion.
That's my point precisely, Madam Chair. That's why we need NEDA. Because we cannot say that the Bulacan Economic Zone will benefit the whole country without the study, because Clark has about 35,000 hectares owned by government. So between a private corporation, the airport city, and between Clark, which has an international airport, we should protect Clark. So ito yung 2020, ito yung una. So my question is, between that time, 2020 and now, have we had a cost-benefit analysis, and do we have a master plan?
Mr. President, we know for a fact that during the past administration, they were actually trimming I guess the incentives or shortening the incentives that were initially offered to locators in ecozones. That's why it was rationalized in the CREATE. And because of that, there's also been some concerns from the private sector that because of the sunset clause, a lot of them are already leaving the country or are looking for other places to relocate. In fact, there is a proposal from some sectors to actually amend the CREATE law to accommodate certain corrections so that we don't drive away these investors. So, in answering your question, is there a study from the NEDA from that time for the cost-benefit analysis? Unfortunately, being transparent about it, they haven't submitted. But again, I always say, and this is in my opening interpellation, sometimes the hindrance to economic growth, ironically, is also the very agencies that are supposed to promote it because of the bottlenecks that they create. In fact, earlier on, there were already proposals to rehabilitate the NAIA Airport, but because of the studies na matagal nang hinihintay, hindi pa rin matuloy-tuloy, Kung nangyari yan noong 2017, sana by this time, maayos na yung airport natin. Kung titignan natin yung Bulacan area na paglalagyan nitong eco zone na ito, marami doon mga fish ponds. Ngayon, syempre, kailangan din naman natin ng fish pond. Pero ang sinasabi natin din dito, yung value of the development, well, parang from zero yan eh. From zero, or sabihin na natin from 5 to astronomically more because high-value industries yung magre-relocate doon. So, ito na lang for me, common sense. And of course, we need the guidance of NEDA in most cases, but at some point, we also have to exercise the discretionary, our discretion as congressional members of the legislature to think of what we feel is better being proactive for our countrymen. So, for me, no-brainer, wala dun ngayon. Pag malalagyan mo ng something, mas may value kaysa sa wala.
Mr. President, I would agree with the good sponsor that we cannot be solely reliant on NEDA. But we cannot guess whether it will be a good project or not economically. So, did the Senate or any expert in the Senate make their own study and have a cost-benefit? We have tax experts dito sa Ways and Means. We have our LBRMO. So, while I will agree with you na common sense na hindi naman pwedeng we just rely on the agencies, pero common sense din naman, hindi naman tayo pwedeng manghula na kung sa Cavite natin to lalagay or sa Bataan or sa Pangasinan, it will be good because nga, may cost and may benefit eh. So, in other words, sorry for this word, nanghuhula lang ba tayo dito?
Mr. President, I know that there are certain things that are being clarified, but is there any amendment in the statement of our gentleman from Taguig?
Depende po sa sagot. Kasi kung ang sagot ng huhula lang tayo dito, we should not be talking about amendments. We should be talking about not passing the bill because it's too big a project and a bill to rush and then hindi tayo sure kung ano mangyayari. And you don't want this vetoed again, no?
Going back to your question, is there a study? Well, of course, in the committee hearings, we invited experts to give their opinions. And there are a lot of business leaders that are supportive of this, not just the ones from San Miguel. We also have the Senate Tax Office and the Senate Economic Planning Office that weighed in on this because unfortunately, even if we're here in the Senate, hindi natin mapilit yung mga departments na mag-submit na kayo. But then again, Senator Ralph Recto, who is now currently the Secretary of Finance, has said, I'm supportive of it. I think it will be good. So, Mr. President, that's what I can offer now.
Yes.
And
well, Mr. President, first my question kasi nanghuhula lang ba tayo? The answer apparently is yes. Because iba po yung we weigh in na nagbigay tayo ng opinion, iba yung may study tayo. So for example, if you say, are you in favor, Alan, of building the airport in the Laguna Lake? I'm in favor, taga-Taguig ako eh. I'm in favor sa Bulacan, taga-Bulacan din kami. Diba? But if you ask me, is that an expert opinion? Do you have a study? Wala. Second point, the good sponsor is arguing for the airport. Wala na tayong tanong sa airport. Batas na yon and we all want that. We're talking about the eco zone, not the airport. There is a study for the airport, regardless kung ano stand ng ibang agencies, may franchise na yung airport eh. Okay na yon. Okay na yung airport city, 2,500 hectares. And it's not true that yung problema sa NAIA, Bulacan lang ang sagot because Clark Airport is also there and it's a beautiful airport and again, you have 35,000 hectares na gobyerno may-ari. So, ang question natin dito, saan dapat kumiling ang gobyerno? Sa private or sa public? And kung sasabihin natin, pareho naman itong pwedeng public dahil yung ecozone public, kaya tayo humihingi ng study. What study can we agree on or dispute that will say that there is a probability na successful tong ecozone. We do this with everything. So when we have proposals here in Senate, we never excuse that. I mean, Barangay lang ng Taguig, hindi natin mapasa-pasa dito dahil yung DNR kulang sa certification. Di ba? So, state university lang, pag may kulang na isang certification sa professor or whatever, we don't say it's our prerogative. We demand for them to submit it to make sure.
Mr. President, wait. First of all, hindi tayo nanghuhula dito. Nagkaroon tayo ng ilang committee hearing and we invited experts. I wish also the gentleman from Taguig had attended. There is a study of 130.9 billion in revenue or 0.5% of GDP and 1.2 million jobs derived from this. So, pag sinabi niya, hindi na naman yan sure yan lang yung sinasabi nila ganun din naman kahit na NEDA rin pang nang nagbigay nito. These are also done by economists that submitted to our committee during our deliberations, and we took matter into our hands because it's taking for government, again, dragging their feet from submitting.
So I'll give you an example, Madam Chair, Mr. President. If one barangay in a lot for certain economic purposes, gustong alisin lahat ng tao doon, ayaw nung barangay captain, gusto nung mayor, I have a problem with the law saying Baksefa or BESA ang masusunod. Hindi ba dapat wala na yung provision na yon at nakalagay lang ang batas ang masusunod? So whoever is in the right. So it's like, example ko, Madam Chair, sino ba masusunod dito? Si Senator Grace o si Senator Alan? It's not a matter kung sino masusunod sa atin. It's a matter kung sinong tama at mali.